All right, the recording has begun. Okay, Makkot of Chav Gimel.
10 seconds pass.
Yes, that's correct. You forgot.
I'll be in 6 minutes.
All right, good. So let's start, and he'll join in the middle. Okay, so Makot of Chav Gimel Amud Bet. I'll just give a disclaimer now that, of course, this shiur is interesting because Al Torah is interesting, but next week's and the week after, which I've prepared already, it's
more interesting, isn't it?
It's not worth missing. Right? And you're already here for this one, so you can't walk out in the middle, so you're stuck. But then the next 2 weeks, hopefully, are very good.
2 weeks.
Like space station level?
What?
In 2 weeks, it's like, is it going to move to Shavuos or something?
Oh, is it Shavuot? No.
It's the week of
No,
Shavuos.
no.
The week of
it's-
Shavuot?
No, it's Wednesday.
Shavuot
We
is
can do Monday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday's
Tuesday,
out.
Wednesday.
We can do Monday.
Okay.
Is it like is it space station?
No,
level?
but he's saying maybe she did the Chavur.
That's the-
that's the fix.
Move it to Tuesday night.
You gotta find them. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
So,
saying we should have to do it on Shavuos.
all right. The idea of, this week we'll be talking about the idea of Bat Kol, the idea of Ruach HaKodesh, and basically the question that I want to ask is, what is the role of a Bat Kol? In other words, when does a Bat Kol appear and why? So before we kind of go into the shiur, or maybe just to kind of set the stage, if anyone has, like, when does a Bat Kol have to make itself known, and what is it usually for?
And what is the? I don't know if do you bring the story of the one where the Basel comes and then you say they don't listen to it.
Yeah, we'll get to
What's
that.
the point of a Basel?
Okay.
Bat Kol came to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai when he was in the oil to tell them that
Very topical.
all the Romaim died already.
Nachon מאוד, very good. So koch.
Something like
So the Bat Kol came to tell Rabbi Shimon to come out of the cave.
Small anecdote about raising bilingual kids. It has to learn Hebrew. He came home and told me the story of Rishon Bar Chai, and he said he went inside the mirror to learn Torah, and it took me like 5 minutes to talk to him.
Oh, Me'ara.
No, he'd never heard the word Marah before. And he was like, Marah, he said to me. And he just listened to the story and gone. He was like, that makes sense.
I remember actually, Oren, if I can tell an embarrassing story with you, it's a similar idea. A couple of years ago, you came home, you learned about Yom Kippur in Gan. So I said, what are you not allowed to do Yom Kippur? He said, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to drink, you're not allowed to take showers, you're not allowed to wear those sneakers that light up. His is leather, but it's also lights.
Ah, very good.
So you thought,
I don't remember that.
you don't remember that, you were little.
That's a more of a famous thing because it's the same pronunciation.
Right, yeah.
Marah, he's never heard of. He just figured, okay, Marah is
Okay.
pretty similar.
Yes, okay, so we have the story with the Me'ara. Okay, so the
We
Bat
have
Kol.
also Bat Kol, I don't remember his name, but he's like, he went to all the פורצות בעולם, ואז שם את הראש בין הברכיים.
אלעזר בן דוד, לא יודע.
יוחנן בן
אדם,
סמון?
זה הסיפור על אדם קונה עולמו בשעה אחת.
יוחנן בן טורטה או זה someone else?
אני לא זוכר, אז זה שקונה עולמו בשעה אחת.
אלעזר בן דודה.
או זה אלעזר?
רבי.
רבי אלעזר בן דודה.
יצא בת קול, אתה מזומן לך לעולמו.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a few examples where the Bat Kol come and says person XYZ is Mizuman
Mizuman Lechaim.
That's a very common case for Bat Kol. And you gave a good example.
תנורו של החנאי.
That's probably the most famous one.
Is that the one when you said, you know, like, בשעה אחת?
לא בשמיים. No, that's לא בשמיים.
אני בזמן שם עוד רבי עקיבא, אז רק חייך רבי עקיבא, משהו כזה, רק אני לא זוכר בדיוק, גם רבי עקיבא היה פחד שהיה שם, אני חושב שזה
So there's a few that are Bat Kol saying someone is Mizman L'chai Olam Haba, and in the context in particular of Kiddush Hashem often, where someone is, will say Nefesh al Kiddush Hashem, and the Bat Kol comes and promises them.
There's also one with Elisha ben Avuya also.
Right, chutz right, Shuvu Banin Shuv chutz Acher ben, exactly.
These stories in Tanakh.
Oh, wonderful. So all those stories are in the Talmud, right? But, what? The Gemara, right. All the stories we just mentioned are in the Gemara. But this first source is a Gemara telling you that there were also Bat Kols in the times of Tanakh. Okay? So we're going to try to understand, we're going to see the three examples of Bat Kol or Ruach HaKodesh. They're used interchangeably actually in the Midashim. Of the three examples of Bat Kol and Chumash. And then we're going to see a bunch of parallel Midashim, slight differences between them, and look at some Mefarshim to try to understand the nuances of it. Okay, that was a long introduction. Let's start. Makkot daf Chav Gimel Amud Bet. Amar Rabbi Elazar. בשלושה מקומות הופיע רוח הקודש. Ruach HaKodesh appears in three places. Bebeit Dino Shel Shem, Uvebeit Dino Shel Shmuel HaRamati, Uvebeit Dino Shel Shlomo. Okay, Bebeit Dino Shel Shem, Tichtiv, Vayaker Yehuda, Vayomer Tzadka Mimeni. Right? The context there is Yehuda recognizes the items that he had left with Tamar as collateral, and he says famously, Tzadka Mimeni, which we generally understand to mean she's right, more right, she has bested me, she's right? More righteous than I. But then the Gemara asks a question. It says, Menaya, what? First of all, even before, spoiler alert, don't look at the next line of the Gemara. What is a question you could ask on Yehuda's admission there? Tzadka Mimeni, in that story.
What the connection? I would say from the story or from...
Forget the Bat Kol and the Beit Din for a second. Just the purely the pshat of the story of Yehuda and Tamar. Yehuda sees these things, and he says, Tzadka Mimeni, in other words, she's pregnant because of me.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? What's the question you could ask on Yehuda's admission? We'll see it now. Okay,
What's the connection to the? Why is there a outwardly declaration involved in this? And why is there why is this linked to the?
So we'll see. I guess the question was a bit vague. So it says, Menayada. The Gemara says on the second line, how did he know? Don't forget, Tamar was a zona. So, okay, great. He recognized the things he left with her. And around 3 months later, she says, I'm pregnant. But maybe it's somebody else's child. Why is he assuming to her benefit that it's his? Right? Yatzat bat kol ve'amra, mimeni yatzu kvushim. So a bat kol went out and said, kvushim means the things that are hidden. They come from me. In other words, the bat kol came in and pronounced that the child was Yehuda's. Sorry?
First DNA test.
The first DNA test, right? Because the status of the child is b'safek, because she was his own. So how do you know that it's his? So you need some external DNA type test to tell you. And the bat kol here is weighing in on that. Okay, we'll discuss it soon. Let's just finish Bebeit Dino Shel Shmuel. The second case is in Shmuel's day. Tichtiv, Hineni anubi neged Hashem v'neged Mishicho im shor milakachti. So Shmuel, he has this, before he appoints a king, he gets all the people together and he says to them, basically, I want you guys to acknowledge that I've never wronged you and I've been a faithful leader all of this time. So he makes the people promise that. So he says, I've never taken anything from you, etc. Okay, you've never done anything that wasn't acceptable. Vayomer ed Hashem ve'ed Meshicho. So he says, witness. Ki lo matzatem bi'adi me'uma. Right? Be a witness that you've never found any wrong in my hands. Vayomer ed. And then the pasuk says, and he said, Vayomer, witness. So the Gemara asks, Vayomer mibaylet. It should have said, they said witness. Yes, Shmuel, that's true. But he's talking to all Bnei Yisrael. Why is it in singular? Yatzat bat kol ve'amra, ani ed b'davar hazeh. So the bat kol is the one who said ed. Because how could the people really testify that Shmuel never ever did anything wrong? Right? The only one who could actually know that is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the bat kol came out and confirmed the as a witness. In the third case, Bebeit Dino Shel Shlomo, Tichtiv, Vayan HaMelech Vayomer Tnu la et hayeled achai ve'amed lo timitenu hi imo. All right, what's of course the example here is when the two women come with the baby and they each say that it's my child. And what does Shlomo Melech say? He says, give it, cut it in half. And then one woman says, don't do it. And the other one says, fine. So he says, give the child to the mother who cared for her.
We don't know which one.
What?
He does. He said the mum who said.
No, he said to her, give her the baby because she is the mom. We don't know which one.
You do. He gave it to the mother who
Open
said,
the
I don't need it. The other person can have it.
Open it. See it.
And then possibly
Who got the baby in the end?
The one who gets it in the end is the one who said give it to the other person. The mother who said chop the baby in half.
But he said she's a mom. So who is the mom?
The one who said not to cut the baby in half.
But who got the baby?
That mom, no? Isn't that possible?
We don't know. He doesn't say.
What do you mean?
That's the story.
Wait,
Saying
what?
it doesn't say. It sounds like, I think you're right. It doesn't say, but I think that's the pshat.
Pshat is he gives it to the mother who, like Shimon said, no?
I don't know. Do we really know what the kind said to Hevel and same idea.
In any event, So
Fill in the blank.
the Gemara says, no, you can look if you want. I mean, okay. So the Gemara asks, Mina Yada, how did Shlomo Melech know? Which mother? Dilma, right? Iruma mi Irma. That maybe the mother who said, no, you know, don't kill the baby, she can have the... Maybe she was doing that in order to reverse zakat. In other words, like maybe she was being deceitful to do that in order to trick Shlomo. Right? So Yatztabakol ve'amra hi imo. So the end of the pasuk where it says she is the mother, that's not Shlomo making the ruling. That's the bat kol that knows the objective DNA truth that this is the true mother. Amar Rava mimai. Rava questions this whole thing. Dilma Yehuda keman dechashiv yarchev yome v'yitremei dechazinan mechaskinan v'lo chazinan lo mechaskinan. So how do you know? Maybe with Yehuda. So he went and he calculated the months. And he saw that she was around 3 months pregnant, and he remembered that he visited around 3 months ago. So he said, Chazaka, that it belongs to me, right? How many people could she have been with at around the same time that would lead to this? It's probably mine. So maybe that's how Yehuda knew. Shmuel Nami.
It's bad maths.
Huh?
It's bad maths. Your premise was much better than your answer. Like, she's a zone. What do you mean? How many people?
Shmuel Nami, Shmuel's case is also Kulu Yisrael Kari Lahu B'Lashon Yichidi.
Some stuff, audience is not appropriate, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. Shmuel. Right. Let's not delve into that case. Okay. Shmuel Nami Kulu Yisrael Kari Lahu B'Lashon Yichidi. Right. What was the vort of the Gemara? And it says Vayomer Ed. Right. He is a witness, but Yisrael is referred to in the singular all the time, as a one-bodied nation in the singular. So maybe. Dichtiv Yisrael Noshav B'Shem, for example. So why are you assuming that means it's a bat kol, right? Shlomo Nami, also the last case. Midaha kamerachma v'ad lo kamerachma, right? That with Shlomo, like it makes sense. Okay, you want to say she's being duplicitous, but he could, like, if one woman was known to be merciful and the other woman was known not to be merciful, so then Shlomo is making a very reasonable assumption and conclusion, right? In a court case, and this is I think the whole point of this thing, right? When you're a judge in a court case, so there's a point where you have reasonable doubt, there's a point where it's beyond a reasonable doubt, but sometimes you make a ruling, if it's beyond a reasonable doubt, not necessarily that you 100% know the objective ontological truth, but just because that you have all the facts line up and it's a logical conclusion to make.
In 2 cases, we have a mishpat, and then Basco came and made the achra, which is pretty weird compared to Norosh Lachnai.
Very good. Yep. The function seems to be a bit different here, right? That's what you're trying to say. Bat kol here seems to be very limited to being machriya, a court, almost a court, like a shofet, right?
He was going to die. Like Yehuda was about, you need to die. And they were like, oh,
right.
Basco.
Beit Dino Sheshem, Beit Dino Sheshem. Very good. As opposed to, that's the next source, as opposed to what we said before, the bat kol in the Talmud, most of the sources are about someone is muzman leben olam haba. It's not about a Beit Din, right? It's about some moral theological declaration. Yeah, very good. All right, just to finish this, so Rava concludes, Ela Gemara. So Rava actually rejects all of the logic of why you need to conclude it's a bat kol in each of these, and he says it's just a Masorah we have that there was a bat kol in each of these cases instead. He doesn't say there wasn't a bat kol, just that it's not because it says he's, Vayomer instead of Vayomru, just that we know that there was a bat kol. Okay. The Ben Yoyada addresses Kobe's question. Kashe. Ve'alo kama pa'amim hofi'a ruach hakodesh bebat kol bizman hatanaim. So we know that right, this opens by saying בשלושה מקומות הופיע ruach hakodesh. Right, ruach hakodesh appears 3 times. And what do you mean ruach hakodesh appears 3 times? It manifests as a bat kol in the times of the Tanaim many times. Chada bizman Hillel v'Shammai she'amra bat kol elu va'elu divrei Elokim chayim ve'elach kebeit Hillel, which nobody mentioned before, but that's one of the most famous examples of bat kol. V'chein be'uvda d'Rabbi Eliezer b'tzalem rosh el achnai, שעשתה בת קול ואמרה, מה לכם אצל רבי אליעזר, השכהלך כמותו, וכן בזמן שגזרו רבי גמליאל הריגה. There's a story where Rabbi Gamliel was condemned to death, והפיל עצמו אותו הממונה עליו מן הגג וניצול רבי גמליאל, ויצתה בת קול ואמרה שהוא מזומן לעולם הבא. The person who was supposed to execute Rabbi Gamliel instead committed suicide, and he instantly won like in 1 hour עולם הבא. A story in Ta'anit. וכן היה גם כן בעובדה לרבי חנינא בן תרדיון, the story of Rabbi Chנינא בן תרדיון that also Right, the execution of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion removes the wool from his chest so he can die more quickly. He's also ben olam haba. V'chen b'yom p'tirato shel Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and there's a story also there. You have these examples all throughout the Talmud. So the Ben Yehuda's question is, why are you saying there's only 3 places where this appears? And he answers, V'nirali dekan nakit mekomot sheyesh lehen remez ve'asmachta b'chtuvim. So the Rabbi Elazar's teaching in Makot is collecting examples not from the days of the Tanaim, but from the days of Tanakh. And furthermore, ve'od kan nakit al zman shayu nevi'im mitnab'im ba'olam. Right, in these days you had nevuah. Right, in the time of Yehuda you had nevuah. In the time of Shmuel you certainly had nevuah. In the time of Shlomo you certainly had nevuah. Right? If I have Nevi'im wandering around, why do I need a bat kol to come out and adjudicate a case? You have a Navi. Or the Urim v'Tumim also. Right? V'yatzah bat kol. But anyways, a bat kol emanated. Aval bizman deleka Nevi'im, but in a time where the Nevi'im no longer prophesy, namely the Tkufat HaTanaim, right? Enze chidush. Dietmar b'Gemara shiu mishtamshim b'bat kol. Right? The Gemara says, they used to use bat kol or hear bat kol all the time. Of course, it's a regular occurrence in the times of the Tanaim, but that's when there wasn't nevuah. The real chidush is to say, even when there was nevuah, even when there was Urim Tumim, you had these 3 examples of bat kol. Okay, I want to look at a couple of parallel versions of this midrash with slight differences in other places in Chazal. So if we look in Kohelet Rabbah, it says as follows: Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Okay, so instead of Rabbi Elazar, בשלושה מקומות savachat midat adin. Okay, so first of all, it replaces Ruach HaKodesh / bat kol with midat adin here. בבית דינו של שם, בבית דינו של שמואל, בבית דינו של שלמה. בבית דינו של שם מניין. How do I know? שנאמר, ויקרא יהודה ויאמר צדקה ממני. ורוח הקודש צווחת ואומרת, ממני היו כל הדברים. Okay, so the language is a little bit different here. It's not ממני יצאו כבושים, אלא ממני היו כל הדברים. בבית דינו של שמואל מניין, שנאמר, הנני ענו בי נגד השם ונגד משכו, ויאמר להם, עד השם בכם, והם משיכו, ויאמרו, עד, אין כתיב כאן, אלא ויאמר עד. מי אמר עד? רוח הקודש אומרת, אתם מעידים על הגלוי, ואני אעיד על הנסתרים. Right, this bat kol is revealing the hidden. ובבית דינו של שלמה מניין שנאמר ויען המלך ויאמר צמלה את היולדות ואומר ורוח הקודש אומרת היא אמו ודאי. For sure she is the mother and not the other one. Okay. The Maharsha tries to understand, like, it's pretty clear the second 2 cases in terms of the language or what the Gemara is saying, right? Vayomer ed instead of vayomru ed. It's singular instead of plural, so it's a bat kol. And also with the case with Shlomo, so it says, he says at the end, Ve'amet lo timiteu hi imo. She is the mother. So that declaration of she is the mother is by the bat kol. But where does it understand the tzadka mimeni? So the Maharsha says as follows: Yima'en milifaresh demilat tzadka dabek lemimeni. Shehi tzadka yoter mimeni. Now, it's the way I always, until I learned this, the way I always understood that pasuk, right? When Yehuda says tzadka mimeni, it means Tamar is more right than me. Tzadka mimeni, right? But what?
Kama.
So right. So Maharsha is saying what the Gemara is understanding is tzadka break mimeni. It's Yehuda is saying the word tzadka, and mimeni is said independently. L'chein pirash Ramban. Because Yehuda didn't actually know that she had become impregnated by him, because as we said before, she was at least as far as he understood, she was a zona. Maybe she was pregnant from somebody else. Right? So why is the Gemara saying tzadka mimeni is problematic? We kind of said this, because he rightfully, given what he thought he knew, why would he assume tzadka mimeni? Maybe it wasn't his. In other words, tzadka mimeni in the sense that those things that he gave her were his, but not in the sense that she was obviously making the claim that he was the father. He says, maybe, I don't know, tzadka mimeni doesn't fit. Right? What does Yehuda say after? Tzadka mimeni, why she bested me, or more righteous than I? Because I didn't give my son Shelah to her, right? It was because he didn't give Shelah to her, because the 2 older sons had died. He didn't want to give the 3rd son, so then she went and did this whole thing. אין זה מספיק שהיא צודקת יותר ממנו, but that's not a good enough reason to say that she was more righteous than he. דאדרבא דאיכא למימר דאידך גיסא דשפר עשה. You could even say he did the right thing. Why? דלא נתנה לשלה, he didn't give her to his son שלה, כמה שכתוב, פן ימות עליה, כאחיו, because he was afraid that he would die, reasonable enough. I mean, assuming there is some black widow concept that's valid. והיא ידעה שחמיה היה. But she knew that he was her father-in-law. והפקירה עצמה לו. In other words, she acted willingly in a sinful way because she knew he was the father-in-law, but she seduced him. אבל הוא יותר צדיק שלא ידע כי כלתו היא. But he didn't know who she was. So if he did a sin, it was בשגגה. So was it...
Sin to be a prostitute in the first place, or?
Well, you need to remember one thing, and this is something that there's more than one example for that, is that those women used to cover themselves. That's why they didn't identify her.
I understand. I'm saying
fact
that wasn't problematic to use his own.
No, I don't think so. Back in the day,
Kedushin back in the day.
Maybe they're abundant.
I forget everything we're talking about, just the story itself. How could Yehuda, one of the founders of the Shvatim...
No, I'm not talking about manufacturing. Just saying, as a Jew, is it or is it not a bad
he
thing?
wasn't a Jew. Also, there was no Torah then.
They had wives.
You know, wives.
So you had wives and you had concubines, and
Yeah. Shimon, doesn't matter.
In the story, it's clear that the problem isn't the fact that he was with her. It's more than that. If you read the psukim, he has a friend. He right. What happens? He gives her the things, and then he goes back to collect them. Right? He says, "Oh, I can't pay you now. Let me go. I'll give you these things as collateral, and I'll bring back and give you payment." He sends his friend to go pay her off. In other words, like he wasn't. He was very comfortable telling his friend to go pay off the zon. Another, like,
Okay.
yeah. There wasn't a problem with it for whatever reason. Okay, so the Maharsha is building the case here that really Yehuda was. It would have been wrong for him, given what he knew, in that instance, to actually say tzadka mimeni, because the logic would have dictated that he was still. First of all, there was doubt whether she was actually the mother. Like, why would he assume that she knew that in a day before DNA tests? But also, even so, then he was able to figure out that means that she tricked me, and she knew who I was. I didn't know who she was. So she was obviously acting right. So ve'al korchach amar shemilat tzadka mimeni and shemilot tzadka mimeni and vukim. So that's what compels the Gemara to come and interpret tzadka mimeni as two distinct words. In other words, u'perashut tzadka, it was said by Yehuda. Okay, it says vayomer tzadka. She's correct. She'elu ha'metaltelim sheli, right? That these things which she says are mine. Yeah, she's right about that. Those things belong to me. He was acknowledging that that those things are his. He said there, but not the mimeni in the broader sense of therefore the child must be mine. Therefore she acted properly. Just that those things belong to me. Umimeni, and then what's the mimeni? Hu davar bifnei atzmo kedamasik min hayada v'chulei I lo debat kol amrakach. That tzadka, and then this Bakul comes and says mimeni, that what she says is correct, that this is Yehuda's child, and mimeni atzuk vushim, because and mimeni atzuk vushim is an interesting phrase here. I'm not going to really dwell on it now. It's probably a separate shiur, but the idea that the Malchut Beit David started with and spawned from an act like this, which is steeped in deceit and potential rayot, is this mimeni atzuk vushim, because it's. You're right. It's this irony of the royalty, which is all about purity of lineage, and to be the monarch, you're supposed to be the most. It's all about the yichus, that the Davidic royalty, right? Also with Ruth and Boaz, but going back to Yehuda and Tamar, it comes from places of mamzerut even, and so that's mimeni atzuk vushim, that you have that tension. That for whatever reason the Bat Kol is declaring here that it's mimeni. The reason that this had to happen in this way is a secret from above.
Yeah, it's more than that, because I think the whole concept of the pharaohs, the Egyptian, the whole idea of the why by us, it's the stay away from the arayot, especially within the family, is because that's exactly how it worked within the house of Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Claiming again lineage and pure the concept of continuing down the royal bloodline, if you like, and everything stands within the family, quote unquote, is interesting. As if in an interesting way we're giving a hechsher of going back and say, oh, it's the out of the box kind of thinking that this is where we're supposed to get the real lineage from, even though it's supposed to be not happening.
Right.
So again, it's back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. I forgot to mention before. Also, like with Ruth. So obviously with Lot and his daughters, right? That eventually Moab comes from that. Ammon comes from that, and those are the Ruth and Naamah. So it's all rooted in that. But yes. Okay, another version of the Midrash. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak בשלושה מקומות הופיע רוח הקודש בית דינו של שם בית דינו של שמואל בית דינו של שלמה. This is Bereshit Rabbah. בבית דינו של שם ויקרא יהודה ויאמר צדקה ממני, מהו ממני? רבי ירמיה בשם רבי יצחק אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא אתם תהיו מעידים מה שבגלוי ואני מעיד עליו מה שבסתר. So we're starting to see here, like from this language, a bit of a connection between the bat kol from the stories in Tanakh and the bat kol from the days of the Tanaim. In terms of
Exactly what it said about Shmuel, no?
Yeah, you're right. It said that about Shmuel in the previous Midrash. Thank you. And it says it here about the Yehuda. Anyway, these Midrashim are all similar in a bit kind of just different variants, but these other versions of the Midrash are, I think, drawing the connection that wasn't clear to us initially, namely that what's the connection between a bat kol that comes to just adjudicate a court case in the days of Yehuda or in the days of Shlomo, and the bat kol that comes and says this person is mezuman l'chayei olam haba in the times of Tanaim, that it's about revealing that which is hidden. That the bat kol in those days only came, and it didn't come to every single court case that existed in the times of Tanakh. It came in cases where there was no way to know with 100% certainty what the objective truth was, even if there was a lot of evidence to support, one side or the other. The bat kol came and definitively defined it, right? It used that to validate Shlomo's rule, used that to validate Shmuel, and also in the case of theodicy, of tzaddik v'ralo, that you have these stories of these Tanaim that were put to death, or the people that were loyal to them that met their untimely deaths, and they're mezumanim l'olam haba. This is something that it's used in the sense of comfort, right? Instead of midat hadin, it's maybe more midat harachamim in the times of the Gemara. But the idea being that the bat kol comes to reveal that which is hidden in the sense of it might not be clear to you why these people are being punished in this way, but you should know that it's something that's mimeni yatzuk vushin, that it's something that's decreed before me and that they'll get their reward one day. So the bat kol kind of takes a new twist, I would argue, whereas it reveals hidden things in the times of Tanakh, but in the sense of it's revealing something so that you understand that the way history unfolds, even if it doesn't make sense initially, around the Malchut Beit David coming from a place of Arayot, or from Shlomo HaMelech making this judgment without really, that these are things that have the stamp of approval of Kadosh Baruch Hu, so it kind of morphs into a bat kol coming and being a source of revealing the hidden, but more as like a justification for why tzaddikim, not justification, but to be a source of comfort to tell you why tzaddikim are punished the way they're punished, or other examples that we saw. I just finished the source here. Ubeit dino shel Shmuel, yatza bar kol ve'amra ed. Okay, and then this last version just continues with a bit of a side tangent, right? When it's already talking about Beit Dino Shel Shmuel, it says, Ma'u omer b'bnei Eli. So remember, it's talking about how Shmuel says, I never stole anything from you. So it says, what does it say by the sons of Eli? Right? Eli was the Kohen who mentored and raised Shmuel. He was the Kohen Gadol. So Eli's sons, Chofni and Pinchas, Vati chatat ha'ne'arim gdola. Uchtiv asher yishkevun et hanashim atzvot. Right? Why were they so wicked? Chofni and Pinchas. It says they used to sleep with the women that would come as they took advantage. They were the second in command, kohanim. So women used to come with korbanot, and they took advantage of them and slept with them. So then the Gemara asks, is it possible that the sons of Eli the Kohen, who was a big tzaddik, that they would have acted in such a disgraceful way? אמור מעתה על ידי שהוא משין את קיניהם לשילו להיטהר והן משין אותן חוץ לבתיהם לילה אחד אלא עליהם הכתוב כאילו שימשו עמהן. So no, what really happened was these women would bring korbanot, they'd bring the kinim, a bird offering, and they needed to purify themselves before they brought the offering, and Chofni and Pinchas made them wait an extra day they were machmir and made them wait an extra day before they were able to bring the korban. So that was an extra day that they weren't allowed to be with their husbands. So because they did that, the pasuk attributes them as though they slept with these married women. Like ad kedei kach that this. The pasuk says Asher yishkevun et hanashim, and the Gemara says they didn't really sleep with them. It's like with Reuven and Bilhah a little bit, right? That Reuven slept with Bilhah, his father's wife. But we say he switched the beds, Kilu. But because he was on such a high level, it's Kilu he did something much worse. So you have a similar idea here by the children of Eli. So also Shmuel's sons also didn't follow in their father's footsteps. It says Vaitu achrei betza. They were corrupt. What does it mean? Could it be that the children of Shmuel the Tzaddik were so wicked as to be Vayatu achrei betza? Because that's on the heels of everything that Shmuel said, right? I have a bat kol testifying for me that I've never ever done anything. I've never taken from you a donkey or an ox or whatever. So his sons were the ones who were accepting bribes. So what does it mean? Mevar chata hayta overet beBe'er Sheva, ve'ayu menichin tzarchei tzibur ve'oskin be'tzarchei atzman. There would be this like a traveling wares, like a group of merchants who would be passing through Beersheva. Beersheva is where the children of Shmuel were based. So they were communal leaders, but they would leave their responsibilities. They'd go to to be in this place, into the shuk. And because they did that, again, ad kedei kach that these people, even though they did something which, like, what's wrong with going and engaging in business with people passing through, but because they were the sons of Shmuel, who was the one who never did anything wrong ever in his whole life, so the pasuk biachas to their father attributes to them as though they took bribes. So basically, the next and final source is an elaboration on the children of Eli. So it's a bit kind of a side point, but I think just to kind of conclude. We see here that what role the bat kol is supposed to play is something that's a bit ambiguous, and it takes different roles even within Chazal. Right, that there's a difference between the story of Tanur Shachnai, where it's ignored effectively, to it saying you're zmanim lo alam habat, saying elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim ve'alach kebeit Hillel. But then we have this whole other category of stories where the bat kol takes a distinctly different role in the times of Tanakh, albeit still revealing hidden things, like it says mimeni yatzu kvushim.
The thing is, more than just
I want to hear about alien skin. I know, because I come from alien. We have
I'm not sure about that.
You have exam yichus for Eli? So not so bad.
We have some yichus to Aaron HaKohen as well.
It is bad, we're
discovered
cursed.
this halfway through the packet.
Are you cursed?
Almost, man.
Yeah, was there a curse on
The descendants of Eli are cursed
Yeah.
to die young unless they learn Torah.
Right.
So
Right.
Abaye and Rabbah, right? They're both. Yeah.
Nope.
So I think you can think of it more than just a idea of revealing hidden things. I think it's you can see it as another tool in court, because for example, when you have a situation where you cannot really in criminal law you can't really accept in halacha, you can't accept a person's a person coming through and saying, "Oh, I did it." Why? Because in Adam Masimas Morosha. So I think that in other words, when you come to a dead end without trying to extract like the Inquisition trying to extract a confession, for example, or or the evidence don't. There's something that's lacking in the chain of evidence, for example, or that you don't have if there's something that you don't have. Maybe just one or two, or you're lacking the witnesses, or there wasn't a yatra'ah. It depends what, but at the end of the day, it's you can see it as another tool in court, at least for the Tanakh. You think okay, so you don't have the usual tool, the usual as far as the jurisprudence works. You don't have enough evidence. You don't have that extra mile to actually make the final decision as a judge. Okay, so you get something outwardly, or if you like, they call it in Latin Deus ex machina, outside the God out of the box. The idea that you can't really rely on something it's not planned, it's not part of your set of tools. Mm-hmm. So I think that on that end, and I think that if you look at the batkols that are that declares so this guy is right, or this guy can come to is invited to Olam Haba. I think that there's also the idea of Beit Din Shel Mata and Beit Din Shel Mala. In other words, based on the same tools, this person's verdict would have been X, but Beit Din Shel Mala has other considerations.
Right. I agree. I think it's a good analysis. I would even, maybe somewhat controversially, argue in the cases of Tanakh that one way to interpret the Bat Kol is to say that you have certain cases where you know what the verdict is, but you just can't fully prove it, but that there still needs to be this kind of just koach that says that is the verdict, right? And that maybe sometimes you have kind of the rules of law and the way that things need to be understood and defined. And you don't want, I don't know, you have like all these cases, even in modern times, you have like someone who's a clear, I don't know, the Havdil, like O.J. Simpson, right? Like everyone knew, quote unquote, he was guilty, but he was let off his end. But like you have like certain cases where somebody needs a certain thing, but the evidence just a technicality or some. Okay, like you said, you didn't get hatra or this. Sometimes you need a bat kol to just come and like say, this is what justice is, midat hadin. Like the truth is this, and it needs to be understood. Even if the evidence, there's like this meta consideration of, okay, you're operating within the law, and the law is generally meant to help you reach truth and justice, but it's not 100% foolproof. You can find cases where there's loopholes, and then you need this bat kol represents this kind of force that says that sometimes you need something beyond that to kind of be machria.
From a halachic standpoint, it's problematic. That's why Tenor Shalachna is ignored.
What? No, I'm saying you need two Adam and Bas, not has to be male, no? Name?
Oh, you're saying because it's a female voice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a
the fly's not happy with your.
Add the synthesizer to the
Okay.
But yeah, perhaps Tanur Shalachna is the shift, right? That in the times of Tanakh, you still had this nevuah, umim v'tumim bat kol, that you had some voice that came and said, this is what is the Ratzon Hashem, this is midat hadin. And then when you get to the time of Tanur Shalachna, the idea is now we have to ignore the bat kol. Like we can only act with the tools that we have, which is evidence, which is halacha. We don't have that meta truth anymore, and you do the best you can.